In conversation with Diane Merrill Wigginton. Diane Merrill Wigginton was born in Riverside, California in 1963. A family moved to San Diego near the end of 1970, where she grew up in the newly developed community of Mira Mesa, spending part of her summer each year in Burly, Idaho, with her mother's parents, Florence and Orval Merrill. They developed a love of animal and a respect for the land. It was during this time on the farm where she learned to ride horses, head cattle, and tame wild kittens that Diane developed a love of storytelling. She dreamed of someday becoming a published author and sharing her stories with the world. Having spent her entire life in California, Diane and her husband made a bold move to Sacramento, California to Kalispell, Montana to retire in February 2018. Now she's able to pursue her passion for writing books full time. And on today's episode of Photo Interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy, and excitement to offer the show today, Diane Merrill Wigginton. Welcome on the show, Diane.
So happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited as well to have you on the show today. Quite lovely. We're here to talk about your amazing book series. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Yeah, yeah. So, Diane, I would like you to tell us about your romantic suspense novel in the name of Angelina's Secret, which, of course, is a first book series in a Jewel Dagger series. Could you tell us how the book came about and what inspired you to write Angelina's Secret?
Well, I was quite old when I started writing. I was almost 50 when I
Oh,
wrote my
wow.
first novel. And I had just finished reading another story that was a love story, and it was another cookie cutter.
Mm,
And I kind of was bored with all the stories that were romance.
wow.
So I thought, how hard could it be to write a book that had not only romance, but had some suspense in it, something that would capture your attention and would be one of these really epic romance stories.
Yeah.
And so I sat down one day and I was, 49, and I started writing with this idea of capturing a epic love story with suspense. And 6 months later, I had Angelina's Secret.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's full of suspense and romance and just this epic love story between Jude and Angelina.
Wow. That's an amazing one, really. I love the fact where you mentioned, and in 6 months later, I have Angelina's Secret. Here it is. Bold, fine, beautiful, and doing good. Thank you so much for sharing. That sounds to me like a great way, a great open door into becoming an author. Thanks for sharing. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah. And you also have the follow-up series to Angelina's Secret in the name of Isabella's Heart. And I need to say I love your title because it seems to me like you're giving them with each character. Angelina sounds like a character to me. And now we're having Isabella's Heart that also sounds to me like a character. It's a beautiful way you've got with your titling, which I need to commend. But then, for the sake of readers who haven't read Isabella's Heart yet, and of course, without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what we would expect in terms of themes and subject lines picking up Isabella's heart?
Well, so it takes place 19 years later. And of
Wow.
course, Angelina had a daughter. She actually gave birth to twins. Angelina gave birth to Isabella and Charlie, and they were twins. So
Mm.
this story of Isabella's heart takes place 19 years later and tells the story of how Isabella and Charlie have this really remarkable um, ability to connect. And they um, are on different continents, but they know what's
Wow.
going on with the other.
Oh,
And
wow.
so um, it's also a love story that has a lot of suspense and adventure, and it's a love story that um, it, it's mostly Isabella's love story, but it's also her saving her brother. This she falls in love with the man who's helping her save her brother.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing to know. I love the description of your books. It sounds quite beautiful, quite compelling, and quite intriguing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. And
Thank
I
you.
would like you, yeah, again. I'm not quite sure if you show Itabella's out to the camera. Please, I'd like you to show that to the camera so we can see what it looks like. Beautiful cover you've got in there. Would you like to talk about the making of the cover?
So the making of the cover, I wanted to incorporate the dagger. The dagger, the jewel dagger,
Lady.
has a lot to play into the theme of the novel.
Oh,
So the jewel dagger plays into all three of the stories, the storylines. And so it's passed on from Angelina to Isabella to Olivia.
hmm. Interesting. I love the
Yeah,
sound of that. Thank you so much for mentioning. Thank you. And I'd also
thanks.
like you to tell us a bit about your other title and the name of Lara's story. Please, I'd like
Well,
you to tell us about that too.
okay, so keeping on with the theme of the character and their name, Laura's story is about the character Laura, who comes from Ireland. She's part of a large family,
Mm,
and it takes place during the Irish famine. And her family is kind of torn apart,
mm,
and she is rescued by this couple who comes from Philadelphia, and
mm,
they basically find her on the streets, living on the streets after her family is torn apart, and they take her back to Philadelphia. They rescue her, they adopt her, and
yeah.
she becomes this great woman of Philadelphia, but she never forgets where she comes from,
Mm,
and she suffers a lot of heartache, and but it's not just a story of her heartache, it's a story of how she um forgives and how she becomes this woman of society. And
mm,
so it's her story and how she starts out telling this story to her fiance, and then it goes back and it is kind
wow.
of the story of her life.
Wow. I love the sound of that. Sounds to me to be quite amazing. Thank you for sharing. And you know,
Thank you.
Diane, one of the most interesting things to me as a writer is to listen to readers' feedbacks. And you may want to agree with me that one of the things that make literature to be complex is the fact that it can be interpreted in different ways by different readers based on their opinions. And sometimes the readers might get a message intended by the author. Sometimes they might be close to getting the message. Sometimes they might be far, several kilometers or even several miles away from getting the intended message. And most of the time, they might hilariously misunderstand the message and interpret the book upside down. And you know, as
Absolutely.
interestingly fun as this sound, I would like to ask you, how do you feel when readers interpret your works differently than you intended? How does that make you feel? I'm just curious, you know?
Well, it's always amazing when they actually get the message. Like
Yeah.
Laura's story was a message of redemption, healing, forgiveness.
Wow.
And I've had different reviewers not get that, and then I had this one reviewer
Mm,
absolutely get it, and I was like, "Yes, that's amazing. You get it."
yeah.
And it's just breathtaking when somebody interprets your writing
Yeah.
in the sense that you meant it to be.
Yeah.
Even a child. I had a 12-year-old reviewer, review
Wow.
my book, and they absolutely got it.
Wow.
They got the sense of the book, and they felt it.
Wow.
And that's, because Laura's story was heart-wrenching. There was times when I was writing 5 pages, and by the end of those 5 pages, it was just so heart-wrenching, some of those pages to write.
Mm,
It came from such a deep, deep place in
mm,
my heart that I was wrung out for the day just writing 5 pages. I was
wow.
done in because it was such, I mean, when you write from your heart, you have to like open up.
Yeah,
And when it's such
obviously.
a message as Laura's story, as
Yeah,
I was telling certain emotions,
yeah.
it it really wrenched me. And so I don't know. It was just one of those stories that I felt needed to be told
Mm,
from, I felt their perspective because the famine was just such a terrible time in our history.
wow.
And because I'm part Irish and I'm part
Wow.
Scottish. And
Wow.
so it's a historic fiction. It's
Yeah,
it's a historic fiction. And so and it's also just a fiction because
yeah.
it's not a real person. And so um I just I don't know. It was something that I really felt deeply about.
Wow. That's interesting to know, really. I love your take on that. Sounds to me to be quite amazing, quite great, because I really love it. And I think that's one of the things that make literature to be quite beautiful. When you sit down, sit back, and listen to what people are saying about the book, it's all very exciting to hear and quite amazing. And I love your take on that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. And I'd like to ask you, Diane, why did you start writing so late in life? How long did it take you to write your first novel? And also, did you always want to become an author? I think I've got 3 questions in there already.
Yes. I think deep down, I always wanted to be an author. I think it was something that I've always wanted to do. When I was younger, I wanted to be a photojournalist. That was
Wow.
my passion. That's what I wanted to go to school for. But I'm not a patient person. I didn't have 3 years to wait to get into that school.
Mm,
So I went a different route. I, I was a registered dental assistant for
yeah,
16, 17 years. And then, of course, family, um, I wouldn't say get in the way, but basically life got in the way
yeah,
in the sense that you get busy doing what you start doing every single day. And
yeah,
so I was raising a family and going to work full time. And so in 2011,
yeah.
my brother died
Oh,
suddenly.
wow.
My brother was 13 months older than me,
Oh,
and he died 2 weeks before his 49th birthday.
oh no.
And then that was in January of 2011. And then in October of that year, my father called me and told me he had cancer. And
Wow.
so I don't know, something hit me in my gut at that point, and I kind of knew that my father was also going to die. I don't know what it was, I just knew. And he died in December of that year. So I lost two very important men in my life that year, and that really hit me hard. And I think it took me about a year, year and a half, and it of trying to figure out what that all meant. And
Mm,
I figured it out that life was short and that I wasn't getting any younger. And if I wanted to do what I wanted to do
wait now.
or live my dreams, that I had to really just do it.
Yeah,
I couldn't wait for that perfect moment because the perfect moment was never going to come.
never
I
gonna
was
come.
never going to get younger.
Yeah.
And nobody was going to say, here's your perfect moment, you know? Your perfect moment is here, right? So I was working, I was literally working 5 days a week, 11 hours a day,
Wow. Wow. 11 hours a day.
11 hours a day.
Wow.
And I
A lot.
sat down and I started writing in between breaks and after work. And even at 2 o'clock in the morning, I would wake up with inspiration and I would sit down at my computer and write for an hour or two. And I beat out my first book in 6 months. And
Wow.
then I did the same thing with my second book. I wrote that book in 6 months.
Wow.
And I may have even wrote the third book in 6 or 7 months.
Wow.
Um, now that I have all the time in the world, it takes longer. I don't know why. Um, it takes me longer. But
Oh
I
my
don't know.
goodness. I think this is something, it happens to me too. When I do work, yeah, I always figure, I always find time to write. Either from within, even during the work hours, I'll just pick up my phone and start writing. Yeah, but
Right,
now that I have enough time to myself, I'm finding it very hard. I don't know what it is that time. I think it's just about the passion and the state of mind that's at that time you wanted to write, and the inspirations as well, and the inspiration as well.
right,
Yeah. But
right.
now I think sometimes even when those words come to me, I'll be like, hold on, please, I'm busy. I'll attend to you later. And one thing about the thing is, once it comes the first time, it might not come that exact way the second time. So it's always good to write them down once the inspiration comes to you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm so
And
sorry to
then,
know about the loss you've had in the past.
yeah, well, you get past that after a while and you learn to deal with that and
Yeah,
move on and it does something to you, but it also makes you stronger.
yeah.
And you know, my husband and I, we lost a son 3.5 years ago,
Oh, wow.
um, to drugs. And I thought that would break me, but it hasn't. And it made us both stronger and it made us closer. Because I've heard of it, people losing their children and breaking up their marriages, but no, it made us stronger. It made us closer and um we are stronger than ever. And my husband and I, 20, almost 27 years. This March will be 27 years we've been together.
Wow.
And yeah, we're strong. And getting back to the book, I started my own publishing label. Jewel
Wow.
Dagger Publishing is my label, and I publish all of my books under my own label.
Mm,
Um, I'm very proud of that. Um, so that is, and I keep having people call me and they go, "Well, we'd like to republish your books," and I'm like, "Why would I want to republish my books under somebody else's labels?"
mm,
I says, "I have my own label,
mm.
and I started my own label for a reason." Um,
Wow.
so yeah.
I love your answers to these questions. They're quite pulling, quite interesting, quite heavy, the one you need water to digest. And I love the sound of it. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. And now, apart from the Jewel Dagger series and Lara's story, do you have any other works you've authored or say currently working on? I see you have a children's books as well. You may want to tell us about that.
Well, I do have I have a compromising position, which
Oh,
is a modern romance that I put out 2 years ago. This one's won 9 awards, which I'm
wow.
very proud of. And then this year I put out my children's book,
Big picture of one
which
eye, one.
yeah, uh, this
Beautiful.
one took me 10 years to publish because it took me
Wow.
10 years to find a wonderful
Yeah,
illustrator.
I see.
His name is Nestor Taylor, and he's from Spain.
Oh.
And yeah, this is us as little caricatures. Um, yes. He's absolutely fabulous, and he did all of the illustrations in this book by
Wow.
hand. Everything is done by hand, and
Ah,
it took, like I said, 10 years to find him.
wow.
And this book has won 2 awards so far, and it's also entered in 3 more um, book awards.
Wow.
So I'm waiting to hear after the first of the year whether or not it places any more awards. But
Mm,
um, the pictures, it's just fabulous. Everything in here is just fabulous, and it tells a really great story of, you know, children who are kind and who don't bully or tease the pirate because he has a silly name.
mm,
And the pirate, rewards the children for, being kind.
yeah.
So I just think the pictures are wonderful.
It's beautiful. Even from you showing it to the camera, I can see it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Very beautiful and well done. Great
Thank
job you
you.
got in there.
I am working on another novel.
Wow.
I will have it produced by the 2025. I plan to put it out probably in April or May of
Okay.
this year, and it's called um, The Magician Killer. And it
Wow.
is a suspense romance, another suspense romance, and it's about 2 FBI agents that go after a serial killer in
Wow.
Alaska. So that's cool. And that novel is done. And then I am writing another romance suspense. It's called The Duke's Lady is a Spy.
Wow. I love the sound of this, really. You've got a lot ongoing. I hope you find
Yeah,
some time to sleep.
I do. I sleep very well. I actually slept until 8 o'clock.
It's currently 8:40 and I'm on interview with with you. Yeah, so it's always important to sleep, while while writing. Because I know writing actually takes a lot of time, really.
Yes,
You need
writing
time
does
to
take time.
concentrate, to be in a quiet space, to be able to convey your thought down from the brain to paper. So
Well,
it's
I am fortunate because I have like beautiful scenery outside my window, and I sit
inspiration.
here in beautiful Kalispell, Montana, and
Inspiration.
I mean the inspiration never ceases. I
Wow.
have every once in a while I have owls that will land on the trees out here in front of my office,
I can
and I
imagine.
just yes. It's
Oh
just
wow.
amazing. And then
That's
I get to, use my photo skills, and I take photography out my window and
oh wow.
photograph them.
That's so
It's
that's so cute to know.
amazing. Yeah.
Thank
The
you.
beauty never stops. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so blessed.
You're blessed indeed, I can see.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I'd like to ask you, is there anything before we call it a day today? Is there anything that you'd love to share with the viewers about your books that we did not mention in this interview? I'd love the viewers to know. And also, where can interested viewers get a copy of your book?
Well, my books are available on Amazon. Um, they are also pretty much worldwide, UK,
Mm,
Canada. A lot of libraries carry them throughout the
wow.
world. Apple, you can just pretty much Google my name, Diane Merrill Wigginton,
Yeah.
um, and I am out there. Um,
Interesting.
lots, yeah.
Yeah.
So Amazon,
That's great. And I left a link.
Barnes and Noble, Barnes and Noble
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Diane Merrill Wigginton book directly on Amazon, on Barnes& and Nobles, on our website, and also another platform. I also left links to social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Diane, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. I must say this is more than awesome, very great, but exciting having this conversation with you around the beautiful titles. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, it's my pleasure as well.